I'm Courtney Boyce.
I'm Derek Olthius, and you're listening to the Drop Jaw Podcast.
Boom!
What cracks me up is when I go out in the woods and a guy's got to hold on to a tree or sit across a log because he can't squat. Dude, the human body was meant to squat and craft. I mean, that's like our major function.
I wish I could sit down and have a conversation with the trout and go, "So, Mr. Trout, why do you like those worms so much?"
I mean, those big fish, like you said, they got big for a reason, and more often than not, you walk away with your tail tucked between your legs.
Oh, yeah.
And you just got to salute him.
So you're going for it, and you're ready to do your final cast, and you put all this energy into that forward cast. You let it go, you release the line from your haul, and all of a sudden you hear this oh, and you know exactly what just happened, and it is no fun.
Stick 'em solid.
Welcome to the Drop Jaw Flies Podcast, your source for fly fishing talk, tips, and stories. In this episode, we host a discussion on our flies and heads, and we answer the question, why do our heads cost so much? We reveal our manufacturing process from start to finish. We also talk about our individual heads and discuss their size, shape, color pattern, and effectiveness in the water. If you enjoy this podcast, let us know. Please subscribe to us on iTunes, Stitcher, Podbean, and our YouTube channel. I'm Chad Nelson, along with my awesome co-host, Jason Arvey. Here is today's podcast. So you are ready to roll.
I hope so.
Looking good, shirt matches, the vest, the logo. Man, even your trout hanging on the wall behind you has a blue fly in its mouth.
That is, we need to make a blue fly. And I'm thinking kind of a metallic, like a herring blue for the reservoir, because sometimes that's dynamite, man. So we'll look for that.
Okay. Sounds good.
Yeah.
All right, Jason, today we are going to talk flies. Not your top 10 list. We are going to talk about our flies. We've had a handful of comments come in via social media. Guys asking, why do our flies cost so much? Why do they cost so much? Guys are used to paying, $1, maybe $1.50 for a head.
Yeah.
Sometimes $2 or $3 for a whole fly. And we are asking $9.99 for our heads. So let's talk about that. What goes into making our heads? Why do we ask $9.99?
Well, that is a super good question. That is actually the question of a lot of people. And we get that question a lot on our social media. And so let me just back up a little bit, Chad. Back in the 80s when I first started fly fishing, the hare's ear was the fly of the day, man. And when it was the weekend, my dad and I would go to the fly shop, and we would look at those hare's ears. And we would just drool over them, and they were about, if I remember right, 65 cents a piece.
Yeah.
But back then, the minimum wage, it was low. We're talking $3, something like that an hour. And if you can imagine paying that much for that fly, that was a lot. So we would get half a dozen, and I would lose probably all of them at the end of the day. And it was like paying to play. It was like going to the movie. You pay your money, you watch the movie, and you're done. So fast forward like a bunch of years. We don't have to do the math on that, but our waters, listen, and I'll tell you, this is the long way to the answer to this question, but in Utah, we just don't have a lot of water, and it's super pressured, right? I mean, we go to our reservoir, and in the summertime, there's people everywhere. So the fish see a ton of offerings, lures, flies, whatever. So I was thinking, maybe we need to do something. We even need to make a fly that looks so much as like a fish that they'll have a hard time the fish will have a hard time telling what it is, and except that it looks like food. So that's why these were created, because of the super pressured water that we live around.
Well, and there's other waters around the country too that are super pressured too. I mean, of course, we have that here in Utah, and out west, where we are all primarily desert states, water is limited.
Exactly. And, you got a ton of people here, at least in Utah. You've got how many people on the Wasatch Front? I think it's like 2.5 million. We're just in this area concentrated on a few lakes, and we have one floatable river in the state, which is the Green River. All these waters are just hit every day, 24/7, it seems like. And so I wanted to have something that would even fool the fish more. At least that was the goal. So,
well, to your point, Jason, so let's just talk about our experience fishing last week. We went up to our reservoir again. Ice is completely off. There was more people up there. Conditions were sucky, though, cold, rainy. But we saw a few people that were braving the conditions. They were out there fishing like us. We talked to them. None of them had caught any fish.
Yeah.
And that day, between you and I, we hauled in 12 to 14 nice cutthroat trout.
Yeah, we did. And they were using bait. Some of them were using lures. And we were using our flies. And we were still hooking up, And so that was the goal behind these. So, but what it takes to produce these, let me just hold this one up first, Chad. We have a lot of whitefish out in the west, and so this is the big whitefish head, is what we call the juvenile whitefish head. So please tell me if...
Yeah, just so if you guys are listening, you can go to our website and look at pictures of these heads. Just hold that still, Jason. Maybe the camera will focus a little better on that. So these are all... Well, describe how these are made, Jason. We started out molding these, but today we are actually having our heads 3D printed.
Yeah, so the head is a super tough molded, or actually not molded, but it's produced with 3D printing, so it's very, very tough. And after we get the head, then what we have to do is put a primer coat on it, and then we start with all the many steps with a paintbrush of painting the different colors onto the head. And all of the bigger size flies that we produce too, the eyes are made by us. And they're kind of like a taxidermy style eye. So that's not cheap either. That takes a lot of time. So we have to hand paint all the details on these. And then when that's all dry, then we put a tough clear coat on them. And that's basically the process. So you figure you're going to pay $10 to $12 per head. But these don't just come and are spit out of a machine all done.
And Jason, explain the painting process. Some of these heads, I mean, it's multiple colors. How many steps are there in each color, each painting of the heads?
There's a minimum of 6 colors each.
Mm-hmm.
So,
and some of them up to 10 to 12.
Yeah, some of them are 10 to 12 steps of color. So if we do a run of 100, this is just one of the paintbrushes that we use, but if we do 100 heads, then each one's primered, each one has the secondary, the third, the fourth, the fifth, the sixth, seventh, and so on and so on. The juvenile trout head right here is one of the most colored, and some of the colors you barely even see, but when you look at the head, it just makes sense. It looks more like a trout head. So,
and we are not paying anybody to do this. For those watching this podcast, you are looking at the artist who's holding the head right there. Jason makes all of these heads. He ties all the flies.
So that's just kind of where we are now. And, sooner than later, Chad and I will get a production process in place. And it's very important to us that everything's made in the U.S. We don't want to ship these offshore. A lot of people say, you've got to get these made in China. You got to have these produced in Malaysia or wherever. But it's so important for us to have them made here. We want to have this business all run and in America, and the people that will eventually work for us will also be in America. So yeah, it's a challenge, but we feel really strongly that everything should be done here.
Well, and the fact of the matter is, we don't want to be just another head. We could have these injection molded. We could have them done in China. We could have them done for cheap, but it's hard to control the quality, and it's hard to oversee it. But we want to be quality. We want to be custom. We want to be unique, and we want to be effective. And I think those 3 to 4 words describe what Drop Jaw Flies is. We are quality, we're unique, but these are extremely effective heads.
Yeah, they do. Chad, you're on that effectiveness. So the first head that you see is the finger bling head.
Just back it up just a bit, Jason. There.
Right there.
Yeah.
Yeah, with our eye that we produce also. The one behind it, closest to my fingers, is a new chub head that we have. And it is just been done painting, and it does not have the clear coat on it. So the finger bling head up front is supposed to be like a fingerling trout, and that's one of my favorites. And then the chub head behind it is one that we use at the reservoir that we fish a lot. We fish that a ton. And one of the reasons why, probably the main reason, is it's so pressured that the fish see a lot of things, and we want to test our products out in a place like that. Not in a backcountry private pond or private lake or whatever. You can throw anything in there, catch a big fish, and it doesn't really mean a lot. But when you go to a heavily pressured reservoir or river, and your flies are catching fish, then you have something. And so that's why we spend so much time there.
Yeah. The last 6 months, we have exclusively fished either our reservoir or the Green River. 2 very popular fisheries here in Utah.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely.
But these heads, back to what goes into making them, I would also say these are 100% custom. These aren't spit out of a machine like we described. Now, Jason, when he paints these, he's gotten pretty good at it, but no 2 heads are the same. You try your hardest to make the patterns look the same, but they are 100% custom.
And that's one of the cool things about it, don't you think, Chad? Because you'll even if you order 6 of these heads, and this is a juvenile trout head, light olive that we call it. Each one's going to be a little bit different, and it's going to be cool that way. You can, have a whole bunch of different trout. Each fish is unique, and so each head is unique like that.
Yeah, and so we understand our flies are not for everybody. It's just like I have 2 brother-in-laws that drive BMWs. I have other friends and family members that don't. Some choose to pay a little bit more because they like the quality. They like the customness. They like the uniqueness of the cars. Italian leather shoes. Why do guys pay $200, $300, $400 for Italian leather shoes? They like them because they're quality. They're hand sewn. They know what they're getting.
Yeah. Yeah. And the product would be in line with that. This is the fly that we tie with that juvenile trout head. And recently, I got an email that said, it was sort of semi-angry, and it said, can you explain to me what warrants the cost of your products, heads and flies? And I get it. I understand it. I've been in fly fishing for decades, and I don't like it when fly tying materials are expensive either, but it just is what it is. It takes us a long time to produce these, and we have to there has to be some motivation or something in it for us. And, and So they are more expensive. It's just like I can't, or I could call up Ferrari and go, hey, why is your car so much money? And I'm not going to get very far. It's just, it is what it is because it, costs a lot to produce that.
Yeah, we're certainly not trying to make the profit that I think Ferrari makes.
Exactly. We're far from that.
But we did sit down, obviously, weigh the cost of the materials. Jason's time to do this, and the price is where it's at. So if you want a quality handmade product that is unique, that is effective, our flies might be for you.
I would totally agree with that, Chad. We've had we have 3 people that we're currently working with right now at Mount Kiwi. This is their Instagram names, at Mount Kiwi, at RBTech1, and at Panther Branch Bugs. They're all accomplished fly tyers and fishermen, and they have tried out these heads, tied flies with them in different parts of the country and in saltwater too, and they all catch fish with them. So
yeah, at Mount Kiwi is just at MT Kiwi. And right. I don't know if MT is short for Mount or Montana, because he lives in Montana, but
yeah,
at MT Kiwi.
Yes. And there is a litany of other people that have bought stuff from us and that have helped us, tied patterns, and there's a ton.
Well, the fun thing is it's starting to spread and go global. Yesterday, order from Norway. This morning, order from South Africa. So the word's starting to get out there, and people in other countries are placing orders, and it's fun just to see the fish from around the world that guys are catching with our flies.
Yeah, it is really cool. When you get these, a package of heads or whatever, however you choose to buy them, when you get these, you just get this, the creativity just starts to flow, because you start thinking, how am I going to, what materials am I going to use to finish this fly out? And it's a lot of fun that way.
Yeah, absolutely. Jason, let's just talk about a few of our heads. Start with Baby Whitey head. That was the first. Hold that up to the camera. Explain what it is, how big it is for those that are listening, maybe the pattern, and what makes it so effective.
Well, Baby Whitey's the smallest pattern, smallest head that we have, and if you compare it to other heads on the market, it's pretty big. The fly is articulated, and depending on the hooks that we use, it's going to be a minimum of 4 inches. Sometimes 4 1/4. So Baby Whitey head, this is one that I've used a lot. You can see it's in good shape. The head is really very durable.
Just hold that still. Maybe the camera will focus on that.
Pick it up. How's that?
Yeah.
Anyway, we love this fly, and it's our most popular product, the head and the fly. We sell a ton of these. And just a great representation of a small bait fish. I had the idea to make it into a baby whitefish, but obviously it mimics so much more. So that's our most popular. And I showed this one, Chad, because it has been fished a lot.
Oh, tons. And guys that are getting the heads from us are starting to tie different patterns, not a whitefish pattern, but cool patterns that are extremely effective too.
Oh, yeah.
And then, Jason, talk to, while we're on Baby Whitey, how you tie the fly, the articulation, because that has some good movement to it. And that's certainly part of the quality of drop jaw flies.
Yeah, well, it's kind of a standard way to articulate the fly. I've experimented with some different things, but we use a bead and sometimes 2 beads, but where they're spaced and what's, I don't know. We use 26-pound stainless steel wire, so you're going to have to jerk really hard to break that.
Yeah.
And
for those listening, we do have flight tying tutorials on our YouTube channel. Jason's done one on Baby Whitey, and then also on our biggest fly, the juvenile trout. So you can see what goes into tying these flies.
Okay, Chad. So here's a comparison. The one on the left, and hopefully you guys will watch this on YouTube. If you're watching it on the other media, maybe you can pull YouTube up on this podcast and check these out. But the top baby Whitey is brand new. Now, I just tied that this morning. And then the one on the bottom, I have fished multiple times. So you can see the durability of the head. They are really good. Now, if you smack these on a rock really hard, over time, they are going to shatter. The top coat probably will crack off. But any product that's made, if you throw it up against a rock, it's just not going to be good, So they are very durable, but they are not bulletproof. Mm-hmm. And so we probably will have a kit eventually a repair kit that will offer, because they are so tough, the 3D printed heads, that you could recoat them.
Certainly. And speaking of 3D printing too, Jason, I should say, we need to, when we calculated cost for the heads, we included engineering time, because we've had a guy helping us design these heads, and it is a lengthy, costly process to design all the heads that we have, get scans and files made for them so they are 3D printable. So
yeah, and it wasn't just the look, that they have to displace water a certain way for their size so that they move, and that they're not just a dead stick in the water. So in the engineering, it wasn't just the look of a fish, it had to be both. Like it has to be able to move water a certain way so that it'll move back and forth, up and down, and add that dynamic to it.
Yeah, and then you got to be able to get a hook through the mouth too. So
yeah.
These aren't just off the cuff heads. A lot of engineering, a lot of testing that went into making these as effective as they are.
So let me just show this, Chad. This is the head hook for the juvenile trout fly that we use, and it's a 5/0 owner worm hook, if you can believe that. And just to show you how this works, you have to turn the head sideways, give it a push, and it'll clear, and then you turn it topside, and of course it will sit on there. So to work this kind of thing out, you have to pick a hook that's going to work, that's going to fit, and that still, like Chad said, it has to be able to fit and hold everything and be very durable. This hook is never going to break in a trout. I don't care how big the trout is. So
that is the truth. Pull up another head, Jason, and talk about, either grab a chub maybe or different one. Talk about the design of that head and water displacement and what that's designed to do.
Well, the chub head, definitely, if you hold it up to
just back that up a bit. Yeah, right there.
Yeah, I'll give the front on view. So this head also moves a lot of water. So when you tie a traditional fly, and whatever material you use for the head, if it's a soft material and you strip it through the water, some of that material is going to compress. With these heads, obviously they don't. So when you pull them through the water goes around it, and it forces this head to move to the right or to the left. There's no compression, obviously. And so you do get a lot of lateral movement, and depending on how you tie the rest of your fly, you can get a lot of back and forth movement. And obviously we weight these flies, so we're going to get the up and down, the jig effect too. But what we want is a combination of that to attract the fish. When they come up to look at it, it's going to look like a real fish, and that's another trigger. Mm-hmm. So in the incorporation of all those things, the only thing we don't have is scent. I mean, every other trigger is represented pretty well with the head when you tie a fly with it. So, of course, looks and movements, huge.
Yeah. Now, some of our flies, too, or some of the heads, I should say, we put different color eyes in them. talk quickly, Jason, about what goes into making the eyes, because that's a timely process, and color scheme.
Yeah, most all fish, especially the bait fish, have a silver or a gold eye. We like the gold and or combinations of the gold. So that's what's going to be all of our produced eyes are usually gold or orange. And I found that in the clear water that we have here, most of it is clear. The gold eye works the best, so that's what we throw in it. When you get baby whitey, a lot of the little whitefish have a silver eye, and if it's we also throw a chartreuse eye in baby whitey, and that can help. I seriously did experiments that in springtime when the water's a little off color, the chartreuse eye just caught more fish. So that wasn't a scientific, I didn't use the scientific method, but it's just observations, and the catch rate just went up in bracket or dirtier water with chartreuse eyes.
Yeah. We have some guys that like red eyes. We've made flies, or heads, I should say, with red eyes for guys, and we can do that. Again, these are 100% custom, and we can make different colored eyes, different fly patterns, and that's just who we are.
Yeah. Chad, let's just move on a little bit. The next size head up is the mini trout, and this is becoming super popular. It's a little bit bigger and plumper than baby whitey, and I think a lot of guys are loving this head.
Yeah,
so,
it's a great size, a great mid-size. Like you said, bigger than baby whitey, but certainly not as big as the juvenile trout head.
Yeah. So,
what makes that head so effective, Jason?
well, I think the size is one thing. It's on that smaller size, and most of when you get in the smaller sizes like that, smaller fish come into play. You probably catch more fish with them. Now, big fish, when they see it, they'd eat it too. Some of our huge flies like this that are 7¼ inch long, I don't catch whitefish with this, and I don't catch small trout with this. It weeds out a lot of fish just aren't going to eat that, but the big ones do. And so, but why these smaller ones are so effective, I think, is just the size, and this can displace more water because it is wider than the baby whitey head. So if you're in faster water that would just throw around a smaller fly, this one you strip it and it'll still move really well.
It does.
So love that one. The other fly that we have, Chad, on the website that's for sale is the mullet.
Yeah.
And this can be used as a freshwater chub, or it's also got saltwater grade components on it. It's a single hook in the back, and there's a shank up front. So either trout or saltwater. Good, capable.
Yeah, and those were originally designed for a guy in Florida, correct?
Yes. So there's just a look. And, if you buy the heads, obviously you can tie your flies the way you normally would and just put the head on. And on our tutorials, we show how we attach the heads. It's not really that hard. So I think we also have the skeleton kit, Chad.
Yes. Explain that for the guys listening.
So the skeleton kit is for the juvenile trout fly. And what you're going to get with that is obviously the head, juvenile trout head, the head hook, then you're going to get the bead and wire to articulate that hook to the next hook, and the beads and wire to articulate the tail hook. Then you're going to get the rattle and the 2 weights. And if you can get that for $19.99, and then you can buy that and put your own materials on it, and there's a video tutorial on how to tie that fly. So
it's a sweet kit. Yeah, we love to see guys buy the kits and the heads and tie up their own patterns and send us pictures. Love seeing how creative guys are. It just blows my mind sometimes.
The talent that's out there it's just mind blowing.
It's awesome. Talk about the juvenile trout head quickly, Jason, and then I'm going to ask you if you have a favorite.
Okay, well, the juvenile trout head, that's the front-on view.
Just back that up a bit. Yeah. And again, guys listening, you can see pictures of these on our Instagram, our website, Facebook page.
So when a fish swims up to this, it's not really a subtle deal. Mostly, it's a come up to kill this, and it's not small. The fish aren't small. I mean, I have caught 16-inch fish on this, but it's kind of rare. Most of the fish that are caught on this are over 20. And I love to fish this as my favorite fly because of the possibilities. You throw it out there and you're going to be casting a lot, but the possibilities of a big fish is there, and it's awesome. So,
well, for sure. Yeah, you just might find Moby Dick, and once in a while you see big fish come up to it, and man, it just gets the heart pumping.
Yeah, it's like they either want to chase it out of their area, or they want to chase it and track it down and kill it, and eat it. It's just fun to fish that one.
Now that head, so that's juvenile trout. That's our biggest. What went in? What was the thought process in designing that head the way it's designed?
Well, I wanted to have a fly that was long because a lot of the bigger fish I would see trout that were 8 inches, 7 inches, 6 inches inside these fish. But to have a head that was proportional to that length and that would swing that fly around, it had to be designed a certain way. So it took a while to get, making it look like a head is one thing, but to make it move is another. So all those design elements had to go into this head for this fly idea that I had. And so we were there together when we went and tested this out, and it was awesome. We had finally gotten it right, and it swims great in the water.
Yeah. A lot of trips up testing flies. I mean, every time we're up, we're testing new patterns. We've got new heads in the works that aren't released yet, but a lot of testing, a lot of design into all of these.
Yeah.
So, do you have a favorite, Jason?
Well, I was just going to say that this is going to be my favorite.
The juvenile trout
Juvenile
head.
trout. I love throwing baby Whitey, but this fly, there's something about it. When you start stripping that, it's like, whoa, what is going to hit this? What's coming? What's down there? Because whatever does eat this is going to be a nice fish in most cases.
Yeah. Well, my biggest fish was caught on that. I don't always fish that one because I can't say I love fishing that fly all day. Still learning to cast, and that is a big fly to cast. But guys that are good at casting and fly fishing just might enjoy that, and you will catch big fish with it.
Yeah, definitely. On that note, Chad, let's just go over the performance, equipment that you would need to throw that effectively. 8-weight minimum. Mm-hmm. And a heavy streamer line with a really stout, massive head. I even think that a 10-weight would be the way to go for that fly. There are no permit flies, not even tarpon flies that weigh even close to this. And so having a 10-weight or an 11-weight might seem overkill, but it would throw this really well. And trout are just different creatures. They eat big stuff for their size, relative to their size. And so when they are eating big fish or big food items and you want to throw something similar to those, you need a big line. And you need a stout rod to throw that line.
Yeah. Yep. And then, and guys, you can listen. Our last podcast was on casting big flies, and we talk a little more in detail on this. But, you know, line leader, tippet, rod, they all play a key role in having the mass to throw big flies.
Yeah. So baby whitey and the mini trout, you know, you could use a fast 5-weight. 6-weight would be ideal. 7-weight even better for these. But once you go past those, then you know you're definitely want a 7 or an 8 for everything else, and for some of these big ones, a 10 or an 11 even.
Yep.
So if you guys think, oh my gosh, no way, man, I wouldn't do that for trout fishing. But once you really get into streamer fishing and you start throwing big flies, it'll just be so much more enjoyable.
Absolutely. And then, too, I think one thing that helps, Jason, is the loop knot at the end. It just helps those heads and those flies have a little more movement. I think that's key, too.
Yeah, knowing how to do your leader, and then the loop knot at the end, the connection to your fly is super beneficial. It's very strong, very easy and quick to tie after you've practiced it for a while, and very strong. Mm-hmm. Dig that knot. Dig it.
It works. It works, absolutely.
Yeah.
So, Jason, any cool stories relating to streamer fishing and our flies that you want to share with our listeners?
Well, yeah, Chad, the first day that you and I went to test this fly, it was pretty daunting because it's big, you know. We were kind of curious about how it would cast and how we would do with it. And
that's our juvenile trout fly.
Yeah, juvenile trout fly, for those of you who are just listening. It's 7 1/4 inches long. Depending on the hooks that you tie it with, it could be 6 inches. But this particular one was 7 1/4. So it's a big fly, really, in the fly fishing world, and it has 3 hooks. Anyway, just really curious about that. So we went to our favorite reservoir. It's a huge reservoir, and it gets tons of pressure. So it's a good litmus test to gauge how our flies would do, and for fish that have seen everything. So anyway, we walk up to this cove, and Chad and I are both fishing it. And I noticed that there's some big fish on the surface that are out a little ways, and had some room to cast this beast. And I knew fish were out there, and it was just such an exciting moment to cast this out and see what kind of reaction that we would get. So make this long cast, and thank goodness it didn't hit me in the back of the head. It has since then. It's no fun. But anyway, to watch this swim in the water, it adds a level of excitement because you know it looks real, and to a fish, it's got to look real too. So I start stripping, bam, 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 kind of an erratic pause. Strip, 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 pause. Strip, 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 bang! Just a huge hit. And it was awesome. I can't say anything more other than that. It was just so fun we created this, and the result usually are large fish. So if you want to see that fish, it is on the cover, the video cover of our first podcast that we did with the Gritty Bowman. And you can see that fish and the huge smile that was on my face after catching that fish. And Chad and I both have caught our biggest fish with that fly. Now, if you fish it all day, you might only get a hit. You might only get a follow. But if you do get a fish to commit on that fly, it's usually one that was worth spending the whole day fishing and casting that fly.
Yeah, absolutely. My biggest fish, like you said, was caught on that fly. I only caught 2 that day, but one, man, it was worth all that casting.
Yes, it was.
You know, and to the point of your story, Jason, one of the most fun things about fishing streamers is the aggressive hits. I mean, it's not subtle takes usually when a fish strikes your fly. you've got one on, and it's a hard hit, and it is so much fun.
Yeah, it's like sending a receiver over the middle with linebackers just waiting, and the receiver turns back at the quarterback, catches the ball, and then he's knocked out for like half hour.
He met Ray Lewis, yeah.
Yeah. And so that's kind of what these flies must go through. Thank goodness they're flies and not real. But anyway, that's the excitement that comes when you cast these, because you're in the game, you're playing, and you're just waiting for that linebacker to come and hit it.
Absolutely. Awesome story. Jason, any closing thoughts on our heads? What goes into making them, our flies, drop jaw flies? Any thoughts you want to relay to our listeners?
Well, they are unique. They are expensive. Coming from a buyer and consumer of fly tying materials for decades, I get it that they're expensive, but there is definitely a reason for it. Chad and I aren't just going at nighttime going, yeah, our heads, we're making so much money. It's not that at all. It's just the cost of production and time to paint them each individually. So they are like Chad mentioned, they are like a little piece of art that you buy, and you can tie a super cool fly and just keep it and give it to somebody for a gift. Or you can tie, like a lot of us, super interesting flies and go chance it out at the log jam or the rock pile or get caught in a tree, whatever. And that happens. But they're just a really a unique piece of fly tying equipment material that's at your disposal. And hopefully we've given you some idea of cost and why they do cost that much.
Mm-hmm. I asked a friend, I said, our heads are $10. I said, would you pay $10 for a head and you go tie your own fly if you knew you were going to catch a handful of great fish? I mean, is $10 worth it to you for a great day on the lake or the river? And he said, absolutely. I mean, I think about how much money I spend when I go to a movie. Yeah, I'm entertained for a couple hours, but I don't really get anything out of it. But $10-$20 for a great head, great fly, and you're going to go catch some great fish, absolutely worth it to me.
Yeah, just well said. I mean, what is it worth? And every big fish, even if it's the only fish of the day, if it's a big fish, then it was worth it. I mean, that's your goal when you go fishing, is to catch a big fish. That's my goal.
Hey, why did guys spend $600 on a rod? Why not go buy a $200 rod?
Chad, really quick on that note. Now, there's some bass lures in California now that are super realistic, and some of them are $200, some of them are $400, not even painted yet. So this fly is $50 if you buy it from us, with 3 super stout hooks. And as far as a fly goes, it is pretty realistic, as looking like a juvenile trout. But when you figure it takes over an hour to tie this, and that doesn't even figure in the time of materials and to paint and coat the head.
Yeah.
So I hope that gives guys, a better idea of what goes into these and why they cost what they do. And stick them solid, man. That's the whole goal, is to get you a fish.
Yeah, absolutely. Again, drop jaw flies, we don't want to be just another fly maker, head maker. We are all about quality, uniqueness, and effectiveness. And if it fits your budget, we hope you guys give us a try.
Yeah, please do. And if anybody has any ideas out there for new products or new ideas or color schemes, let us know.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we love hearing feedback. So, okay, thanks for listening, guys. All right, friends, thanks for listening to the Drop Jaw Flies podcast. We'd love to hear your feedback. You can find us on Instagram, Facebook, or our website, www.dropjawflies.com. Please subscribe to us on iTunes, Stitcher, Podbean, or our YouTube channel. Now get out there and hook a big one and stick 'em solid.